How could they make her search for a 4-leaf clover in a pile of grass? She vowed to toss all the grass on the day she quits. She swore to lock her in a room forever because being mentally tortured is way more memorable than just physical exhaustion. But at that moment, she had to keep pushing on her thesis just what a foreign professor, and now her school was ready to send her off to study in Mexico. Although she had to manage school fees and the language herself, she couldn't abandon her high-paying career. But Grandma wouldn't let Joss go out, citing dangers and beasts. So she just lay there as time passed. But she thought staying home was a total waste. So during Grandma's nap, she sneaked out, finding the office empty. After all, giving up this high-paying job was just plain sin. She opened Joss's room for the first time in a month. The decor was not only exquisite, but also tidy, even though Joss rarely stepped outside. But her inner world? Richer than a diamond mine. There was an ocean illustration on the desk, and she could picture the girl in the wheelchair desperately wishing to swim. This was Joss's lifelong dream. Her parents died in business, and she's been with Grandma ever since, disabled, like a canary in a cage. Not much of a talker, she craved freedom. Grandma's voice yanked her back. Turns out Joss snuck out while Grandma wasn't looking, and when they found her, she was this close to a mishap. At that point, Humphrey was over this wild romantic escapade and was ready to bolt at any moment. Emotional, she pivoted and walked away. For the first time, Joss felt guilt. But next, she was shocked Humphrey knew her longing for the outside. So Humphrey used the overtime as an excuse to take her out, but she found many new things she had never touched. When she saw people on the street arguing about trivial things, she couldn't help but laugh. This was her first time seeing so many people. Watching the scenery pass outside the tram, she was shocked, insisting it wasn't her first ride. Humphrey boldly laid out her thoughts, mentioning how Joss ST illustrations depicted a world she had never even imagined, and she wanted to know what the world looked like through Joss. Meanwhile, the girl blushed like a ripe tomato after stepping into her room. Little did they know, their feelings were quietly heating up right then. As dusk fell, Joss reached her dream beach and eagerly pushed her wheelchair forward on seeing the ocean. Halfway, the wheel slipped, causing her to fall. Yet it couldn't quench her thirst for the ocean. As a child, Joss's dad had taken her to the beach. Back then, the waves were too fierce, and she hesitated to get close. But after her father's death, she never tasted the sea. Books said it smelled like smoke, yet without tasting it herself. She'll regret it forever. Seeing this, Humphrey empathized as she yearned for the sea, else she wouldn't hug ocean bricks in snow. Seeing Joss in that state tugged at Humphrey's heart, so she scooped her onto her shoulder and headed into the sea. Just then, a wave crashed down. Water crashed into Joss's mouth. At sunset, they unleashed their wild sides. They had never felt so happy before, but the next second, reality hit, and Grandma warned Humphrey. If there's the next time, your fate won't be pretty, she warned. Then Joss whispered that Grandma took a 2-hour afternoon nap. The next afternoon, Humphrey conveniently tossed yesterday's warning aside. They devoured sweets together and even rode the Ferris wheel. They munched on street food, and when they returned home, Grandma's jaw dropped, yet again. They dashed to a movie, strolled in the park, then to the aquarium where Humphrey explained all fish types to her. They looked just like a couple in love. That night, Joss captured all their wonderful moments on paper. Actually, Grandma knew all along, but didn't say anything. The next day, they went to the library again. Joss and the librarian Cauliflower bonded over their love for an obscure author. Cauliflower mistook their friendship for a romance, and when Joss hurriedly denied it, her blush did the talking. Then Humphrey took her to her workplace, and upon seeing such a beautiful girl, her body finally understood what love felt like. He pulled out his phone, eagerly wanting her contact. But then a customer interrupted. Seeing Humphrey's boss, Ogon greeted him warmly, ignoring Joss. However, when he chatted with Humphrey, Joss signaled she needed to leave, leaving even Humphrey confused. Back at home, Joss's mind was on the other hand. Humphrey was still struggling to understand what was going on. Just then, a little girl approached Cauliflower, revealing that they had all come specifically to hear a story. The original reader quit, so the girl asked Joss. With no choice, Joss agreed. Though seldom going out, her performance was lackluster. Many of the kids dozed off one by one until only the original little girl remained, endlessly curious about what the Mermaid Princess castle looked like. With no choice, Joss drew her as an assassin, but she remained fixated on just one person. Ultimately, Joss drew her on a porcelain plate, and her friend Colourflow quickly discovered it. She was advised to send her illustration collection to publishers. That evening, Fu unexpectedly arrived. Unsure what had offended the boss, she apologized to Joss. She presented a handmade lamp as a gift, saying it was a species that could only be found in Mexico that she'd seen at an aquarium as a kid. Learning that these fish swim in schools only fueled her interest, for their fate mirrored her own, alone, swimming through life. She was determined to visit Mexico to see the fish schools, but just as she resolved it, a power outage hit her new lamp. "Dad, where'd you go?" After that, Joss transformed overnight, putting effort into her appearance before stepping out to wander around. Grandma couldn't believe her eyes, wanting to put a stop to their escapades. It was as if she had sensed something brewing. She merely stood by with no further comments. Once they left, she burst into laughter because her granddaughter finally mustered the courage to face the world. They arrived at the zoo, where Joss declared she wanted to see the most terrifying animal in the world, but once that tiger roared, she felt a shock. She instinctively clutched Tengfa's sleeve, experiencing warmth from someone other than family for the very first time in days.